Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's really rainy where I am. I hope it's not so bad where you are. I am Anjanette Levy, and we are going to be talking about Donna Adelson's case. She is the Miami, Florida grandmother accused of conspiring with her son and other family members to murder her ex-son-in-law, Dan Markel. If you're just joining for the first time ever, thanks for tuning in, and please give me a thumbs up, like, and please subscribe. I'm trying to hit a big goal here of reaching 5,000 subscribers, trying to build up my little channel here. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching on replay, thanks for watching on replay. I love it when I come back and I see in the comments that people have watched on replay. It always makes me feel so good. So let me take a moment to say hi to everybody. Hi to the docket. The docket was here first. He usually is. Also, thanks to Webby and Melmac for helping me out by moderating. And Donna's very narrow ear canals. You know, it's really funny that that's your name because that whole thing really kind of cracks me up. And I have that soundbite queued up somewhere on my laptop about her needing to be out on bail for a conspiracy to murder somebody, you know, these serious charges, because she has to get this very important treatment to get earwax removed from her ear canals, because there's this doctor that performs that, and sometimes she can't hear the corrections officers because, you know, she has narrow ear canals, and I guess that earwax really builds up, and it's a condition she's had for a really long time. So very clever name there. She lost that motion, by the way. Let's see. Guy Jamnick, hi, thanks so much. And hello to the Pope. Yes, the Pope, as always, is standing by. R.I.P. Pope Francis. So he's back there, though, dutifully holding up the books. And then Maui Girl, hi to you. Mo Harkin, hi to you. And Stacy Ann, hello. Happy Saturday. And Factual Lie. Hi, Factual Lie. Okay, so if you've been following this case, you know how completely insane it is. Dan Markel was a father of two young boys, very devoted father, a law professor at Florida State University in Tallahassee. And excuse me, he said that, sorry, I got a notification. I got a little distracted. We've got a really big story going on where I live. Horrible story about a sheriff's deputy being killed. So that popped up on my screen. I got distracted for a second, and I was out getting video of that a little bit ago. So my hair is a little bit like, but anyway, back to Dan Markel. Dan Markel was a beloved law professor at Florida State University, really smart, intelligent guy. He was married to a woman named Wendy Adelson. And most of you probably know this story. Wendy and Dan were involved in a bitter custody battle, ugly divorce. This is kind of like the rich people's version of the Pike County Massacre, except that, you know, we had one victim in this case, instead of 8. So hi, Vesper Martini. Hi, Kim Hastings. So back in 2014, Dan Markel drops his kids off at daycare, goes to the gym. He comes home, he pulls into his driveway, and he's murdered in his car, shot to death. And people are like, what in the world? Like, I mean, who in the heck would kill this guy, right? Like a law professor sitting in his car in his driveway in his garage. It makes no sense. The docket says $10 if I make that hair sound again. I don't know if anybody really wants to hear about that, me talking about, because I was out in the rain getting some video of this horrible sight where this poor guy was, where this poor gentleman was hit yesterday. You guys, maybe I'll talk about that another time. But what an awful thing. Mama 2SL Morgan, I live near the sheriff homicide as well. Yeah, awful. It's ridiculous. It's really horrible. CH says, we call her Grandma Gotti. Well, if what the prosecution says is true, I can see that. So, but the docket, you don't even have to give me $10. I think that's what I was talking about. Anyway, so this investigation unfolds. They learn that Wendy Adelson, she did not want to stay in Tallahassee. She did not like it there. And she really wanted to move the two boys down to Miami. She wanted to go back to Miami. Donna Adelson wanted to move the boys and Wendy to Miami. She wanted everybody down with her. So if we're talking like Pike County Massacre versus the Adelsons, Donna Adelson would be Angela Wagner, but just living in a much fancier condo in Miami. And Billy Wagner would be Harvey Adelson, but he's a dentist. So well, that was very kind of you. Wow. Apparently all I have to do is make noises and people give me super chats. Well, thank you. It's very, very funny. Very sweet. So, so we'll keep that up there for a minute. Yes, thank you, the docket. That's very kind. So the police come to find out that there's this custody issue. There's horrible emails with Donna goading Wendy. She calls he's really terrible. She calls Dan gibbers, like really derisive names. She's telling what did she tell Wendy to get tell Dan you're going to get the kids baptized in the Catholic Church. I mean, just all this stuff to really get under Dan's skin. Dan was a devout Jew. This would really upset him. There was even something about, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I thought there was something about Donna writing about possibly dressing the boys up in like Hitler costumes or, like Nazi costumes, something crazy like that. So yes, Vesper Martini, I thought that was right. The Hitler Youth outfits. Like, who in the heck would do that? And the Adelsons are Jewish. Like, what the heck? Like, it makes zero sense to me. So it's just insanity. So it's just crazy. So anyway, Donna gets arrested, as you all know. Donna gets arrested at the Miami International Airport after Charlie Adelson's trial. Charlie, I'll rewind a minute. The hitmen were arrested. Luis Rivera, the Latin Kings guy, the gang member, and Sigfredo Garcia, who is the, I guess, baby daddy of Catherine Magbanois, who dated Charlie Adelson for a time. All of these people say that basically Charlie Adelson used Katie Magbanois to hire Sigfredo and Luis Rivera to carry out the homicides. They're the ones who, drove up from Miami in this Toyota Prius, shot Dan Markel, and then, did it for money. Let me just tell you that Luis Rivera he's like cold as ice. Like, that guy does not care about anything. And he testified against Charlie Adelson at his trial. Katie Magbanois said, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Her first trial ended in a mistrial. And then her second trial, she was convicted. And then all of a sudden she's cooperating and she testified against Charlie at his trial. So she's expected to testify at Donna's trial if it ever happens. Donna is 75 years old now. So Donna in October 2023, after Charlie's trial, sees the writing on the wall. She knows they're coming for her. She's hearing through Charlie's attorney, Dan Rauschbaum, just the scuttle, what's going on in Tallahassee. She and Harvey buy one-way tickets to Vietnam, and they hear all this talk on the jail calls between Charlie and Donna, one of which was a hot mic call that she didn't realize she had forgot to hang up, and she got recorded. And so, yeah. So they scoop her up, they arrest her and charge her with conspiracy to commit murder, because everybody goes to Vietnam with one-way tickets. Everybody wants to hang out in Vietnam for a really long time. So the other day, they're in court, and her attorneys are asking for a continuance. Trial is supposed to start for Donna. It was supposed to be last September. Now that got continued because there was a conflict because Charlie never waived the conflict with Dan Rauschbaum, the attorney representing Donna, who had represented him. Hot mess. Now they're like, oh wait, now we need to continue this mess again. That's very sweet. Violet says, holy smokes, Anjanette has a YouTube channel that we can just, that's very sweet, Violet. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. So yeah, Cynthia Sweezy says, Donna forced the state's hand after she was caught fleeing the country. Yes, that's what the state says. So basically, but listen to this, guys. There's something going on. Yeah, Mel Mac, that's true. No wonder the oldest son got out of the family fold. Good for him. The oldest son doesn't talk to them anymore. He's like, peace out. I'm not dealing with you people anymore. So anyway, the defense filed a motion to continue the trial once again. Everybody's like, what the heck's going on? What the heck is going on is the fact that there's a secret investigation that's been going on since last fall. And there's new evidence. There's another investigation. Something is going on, and it involves wiretaps. So let's listen to a little bit of the defense when they're explaining why they need this continuance. And we'll talk about later a little bit of more what it could mean. So here we go. This is one of the defense attorneys for Donna Adelson.
Software, in addition to
sorry.
What has come out about 3 weeks ago is the state conducted this additional investigation into allegations. As part of that, they obtained additional records. We also learned approximately 2 weeks ago during Investigator Newland's deposition that the state had not given us materials that had been given to prior counsel. So we've been asked to trust without the ability to verify. And in fact, months ago, I asked the state for a list of the materials, everything that they had, everything that Corbett had, so that we knew if we had received everything. And they did not provide that to us. So now we have received, from the materials we received over the last few weeks, it appears to be over 100,000 emails. We have purchased 3 pieces of software in addition to the software that we used previously, trying to...
Is this to sort through or sift the emails?
Some of it's to open it, some of it's to sort through. Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
None of them are very effective at doing that. So we've actually engaged a e-discovery platform to assist us, but that hasn't even been set up yet. That was a decision that we made last night after trying the additional piece of software yesterday.
Okay, so they've got 100,000 emails. That's just one piece of the puzzle. And this new investigation. They're being all cagey about it. They won't say what it's about. They're being like, investigation. Because they know the press is here. They don't want the press to know about it. And so whatever it is, it's got to be pretty interesting. So let's listen to what the defense says about the phone calls, because there are wiretaps involved in this. And so wiretaps, that's not an easy thing to get. You can't just like get a wiretap if you're law enforcement. It's not easy. So let's listen to what the defense has to say about the wiretaps.
On that wire. And although the state believes that we're going to have enough time, I calculated this. There are over 32 hours of calls that were captured on that wire. And given the amount of materials that we have just been handed, we have not had an opportunity to review even 2 hours of those calls up to this point. Your Honor, just because the state believes that there's going to be enough time for us to prepare, and it's not 2 months, it's more like 6 weeks. There's not enough time for us to analyze this new information, synthesize it, prepare appropriate motions. We've spent the last 3 weeks dealing with this as opposed to finalizing the motions in limine.
That is an important point you bring up. Essentially, between what has been recently investigated and what the charges have been of murder, solicitation, and conspiracy from the time your client is charged, there are essentially two different pots, if you will. For the motions that the deadline was today as to the murder, solicitation, and also the last count as well, are those motions completed?
No, Your Honor, we've only had an opportunity to finish 2 additional motions that have not yet been filed, and I have not had an opportunity, because we had to adjourn Investigator Newland's deposition, to finish the Franks motion.
Right?
Okay, so a Frank's motion is when, and I don't know why this is,
This new
I don't know why
discovery-
this is keeping me little on here. It does that sometimes. But a Frank's motion is when they're trying to get a hearing where they would say that law enforcement lied willfully and deliberately to get a search warrant. And so then that if they prove that at a hearing or whatever, the evidence gets suppressed and thrown out. So they're saying we haven't had time. We've been dealing with this new investigation stuff that we found out about. So we need extra time. We haven't even done our motions because we've been dealing with all this other stuff. So, but so the judge is saying there's 2 pots here, this other investigation and the trial. So they're being very, very, very careful about what's going on. So let's listen now to Sarah Dugan, one of the prosecutors on the case, talk about the wiretaps.
There is obviously this new discovery from this lead that the state was alerted to last fall. We conducted this investigation and followed that investigation to its conclusion. That obviously has resulted in some new discovery in these wire calls, but I did want to let the court know, though there are a large number of calls that the defense, of course, wants to review, there are only, I was told, about 30-something calls deemed pertinent by law enforcement, and the state likely plans to only use maybe 1 or 2 at trial, and believes that the 2 months the defense had from the time it was discovered to the time of trial in June should be sufficient to prepare for that portion of the trial.
Do any of the calls that you intend to use from this recent investigation go to privileged matters or encapsulate calls with counsel?
Thank you. I wanted to address that. There are no calls that were recorded between the defendant, Donna Adelson, and attorneys in this case. I specifically asked the investigator about that before the hearing.
So no calls between Donna Adelson and her lawyers. So that's not a concern. So what in the world could this investigation be about? So this whole thing started last fall. They got a tip, a lead. They started pursuing it. There was enough for them to get a wiretap. When you go to the court to get a wiretap, you have to basically show the court there is no other way. We've tried. There's no other way that we would be able to get this evidence. Like, just no other way. We couldn't do it. So we have to be able to, put up a wire and then listen in on these calls. And you can't do it continuously. It's like you have certain amounts of time you can do it, or you can't just listen continuously. It's like you have to jump in and jump out and all this stuff and get lucky, I guess. I want to point out Donna Adelson's calls. They can listen to Donna Adelson's calls and Charlie Adelson's phone calls any time they want. They're incarcerated. They can every day check their calls and listen to those. So this isn't going to involve Donna and Charlie's phone calls. This would involve people who are not incarcerated. We know that Harvey and Wendy have been called unindicted co-conspirators. So does this involve them? I don't know. Sarah Dugan goes on to talk about when the wire came down.
Ms. Dugan and I addressed concerning the motion and order, and it has to do with the discrepancy with Investigator Newland's memorandum, the 17-page memorandum. The memorandum that he authored indicated that the wire went down February 24th. Ms. Dugan is telling me that the wire actually went down on February 21st. So if we can just make sure that that's accurate.
Yes, this is one of the paragraphs in the defense's reply. That was just a mistake on the memo. The wire came down on the 21st. I believe the significance of the 24th was that was when the order was signed, and I think Mr. Newland's memo said the 24th, but it is the 21st, which is reflected in the order the court's looking at now.
Okay. So the wire came down on the 21st. So they got a period of time they were authorized to use this wire. What's also interesting is that people who are captured on the wire will eventually receive a letter notifying them that your phone call or your phone was intercepted by a wiretap. So that will happen eventually if it hasn't already. And maybe it has happened already. So what happened last fall? We know last fall, Donna's trial was continued because it was determined that Charlie Adelson had not waived this conflict. Right on the day of trial, that he was brought in from South Dakota. He was going to be testifying in the trial or whatever. And so he says, well, I didn't waive the conflict. He's my lawyer and I never waived the conflict. So Dan Rauschbaum couldn't represent Donna anymore. So the trial was continued. She had to find new counsel. So that happened last fall. That was in September. So what happened? What else happened last fall? What's this lead that they got that they started pursuing? And then what period of time did the judge authorize them to put the wire up when it came down on February 21st? Was it 30 days? Was it 60 days? We don't know. But they've gotten maybe one or two calls that they think they can use at Donna's trial. And they're being all cagey about what this investigation relates to. And then there was also talk about them handing over Harvey's Zelle records. So what's going on? So let's put up some of your comments. Cynthia Sweezy says, the only thing they have is that Wendy was spotted in the neighborhood the day Markel was unalived, but she has kids with him, obviously. Right. I mean, that they do have that. She drove by the scene. She said she was taking a shortcut or whatever. Donna's very narrow ear canals says there's enough circumstantial evidence against Wendy to arrest her. Well, obviously they don't think so, but what the pattern we've seen in this case so far, and Wendy Adelson maintains she and her family had nothing to do with a conspiracy to murder Dan Markel. She's testified at 2 trials now and will be testifying with limited immunity at her mother's trial. So it'll be interesting to see if Wendy gets one of these letters saying that her phone was intercepted on the wire. But the pattern seems to have been that, people get arrested. Donna got scooped up because she tried to leave the country, right? But she had the feeling, given what Rauschbaum had told her, that she was going to get arrested. So it seems like the way they do these things in Tallahassee with that Leon County prosecutor's office is they wait until the next trial, after the next person's trial, to arrest somebody else. So does this involve Wendy or Harvey or both because they're both named. I mean, Georgia, now I can't, Georgia Kappelman has called them unindicted co-conspirators many times. So it will be interesting. Looking through some of your other comments. And now I want to play for you. Cynthia says, I don't think they have any evidence against Wendy Adelson. The state would have to prove probable cause. Well, they'd have to prove a whole lot. They can do, if they have probable cause, they can arrest her, but they'd have to prove a whole lot more than that at trial. They'd have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And again, she says she and her family had nothing to do with a conspiracy. Carolina Chartier says, did Wendy move in the fall? I'm not sure about that. I did hear about this whole Texas thing a while ago. People are saying she lives in Texas now. And I think I did hear about that a while ago. I just don't know when she moved. I thought the kids, I thought there was some type of bar mitzvah for one of the boys in Florida last year. So I don't know. Okay. So I want to play for you. I had Joel Waldman on. He has the Surviving the Survivor podcast, and he has Tim Jansen on, who's a local lawyer up in Tallahassee. And Tim knows everybody up there. And I've had Tim on Crime Fix before on Law and Crime. And I just, I could have called Tim, but I didn't. I just called Joel and I was like, hey, you want to come on, talk about this? He said, sure. So he came on yesterday. And Joel and I talked about this. So let's listen to what Joel had to say. I'm going to put it on 1.5 speed so we're not sitting here all night. But listen to what Joel had to say about this.
Well, Anjanette, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, you are not the only one who was surprised. I mean, I think we were all taken aback. The hearing was midweek, and it was scheduled to be a hearing to get the trial continued. It seems like every trial out there right now is being continued. So throw the Dan Markel and Adelsons into the mix as well. And essentially what the defense was saying is, hey, we got all this new discovery. So prior to the hearing, we had heard that they got like 85,000 new emails. That was like the number being bandied about. And then Josh Zellman, who is now the 4th or 5th, because she has 2 new attorneys, of Donna Adelson's defense attorneys, he, in front of Judge Everett, said,
this is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
Look, we just got 100,000 new, basically, pieces of digital forensic evidence, which he alluded to were mostly emails that he had to go through. So he's asking for a continuance. But then as the hearing went on, it was a 34-minute hearing, so it wasn't overly long.
Right.
They basically informed the public through the court that there was a new investigation on top of this discovery dump with these wiretap calls that you're talking about. And so that was more reason that they needed time to sift through everything. And immediately everyone's thinking, wait, this happened back in 2014, 2025, and now there's a brand new investigation that was started in the fall. So something's going on.
Yeah, something is definitely going on. Sarah Dugan said they got the information in the fall. And I think it's important to point out that a court only approves wiretaps if law enforcement lays out in an affidavit that they can't get the evidence any other way. And with a wiretap, you can't just continuously listen. You have to log on at certain times. And apparently it's very strict about how you can listen. And so who are they listening to? And is it about this investigation? Sarah Dugan says there's 1 or 2 calls that they would use at Donna's trial. So obviously it relates to the murder investigation. Donna's in custody. I'm assuming these aren't her calls, because if they were jail calls, they can listen to those anytime they want.
Yeah, Anjanette, these are amazing points that you're making. I'm glad that you are. So these are what are known as Title III wiretaps. And for full disclosure, I'm not an attorney, but I guess I play one on YouTube, or at least a host.
Same.
So I had a former LA prosecutor of the year who was actually, I believe, on Law and Crime, Josh Ritter. He was on my show last night, and he told me in his entire he's great. But he was telling me in his entire tenure in the LA prosecutor's office, he was never able to obtain a Title III wiretap. That's how hard they are to get. But in this case, as you suggested, they were able to get these wiretaps. And to your point, Donna Adelson was and remains in custody in Leon County, which is where Tallahassee is. And so all they'd have to do with Donna is listen to these recorded jailhouse calls that are all recorded. So the implication or the intimation here is that they've got the goods on other parties possibly involved in this conspiracy, which then leads one to ask the question, could it be Harvey, who is Donna's husband? more importantly to a lot of people, could it be Wendy, Dan Markel's ex-wife? And then just a couple on to what I'm saying, we've got Tim Jansen on our show all the time. He's a criminal defense attorney out of Tallahassee, and he's been there for 40 years and knows a lot of people. And this entire time that I've covered this case, which is the better part of 3 years, he has always said, well, I don't think Wendy's getting indicted. Well, I don't think Wendy's getting indicted. On our last show, he said the tenor has changed. Now he knows people. He's talked to people exactly what Tim knows. He's not going to tell me. But we played that soundbite on my show last night. Something is going on, and maybe it has to do with Wendy. Time's going to tell.
And just to be clear, Wendy Adelson has testified in all of these trials and said that she and her family had nothing to do with a conspiracy to murder Dan Markel. But Wendy and Harvey have also been called unindicted co-conspirators in this case. So I just want to make it clear. That's where we stand right now, at least publicly. But I found it very curious, Joel, about how cagey they were being about this whole thing at that hearing. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. So Joel is saying that Tim Jansen, who's been practicing up in Tallahassee for 40 years, has been consistently saying he does not believe Wendy will be charged in Dan Markel's murder. Now he's saying that tenor has changed. And what Tim is hearing is that potentially things have changed. I'm saying right now, I don't have any information to say anything otherwise, but I know that Tim is very connected up there and has good sources. So I'm just saying we need to wait and see. But obviously there are 1 to 2 calls that Sarah Dugan is saying will be relevant and will be used in Donna's trial. So this relates somehow, it has to relate somehow to the murder case, or else they wouldn't be using 1 or 2 calls. So we got 1 or 2 calls. It sounded like maybe 3, but she's saying 1 or 2 calls out of 32 hours that could prove relevant in Donna's trial. And I think we just have to really keep a close eye on the discovery and what's going to be filed and what we can get our hands on. Don't you think?
Absolutely. What one real quick thing, Anjanette. People are saying, well, are they going to arrest Wendy? Are they going to arrest Wendy? Well, they need Wendy for Donna's testimony.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it until after the trial. That's been their pattern. They wait until the next trial.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a fascinating case with a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah, but I do want to reiterate, Wendy Adelson has not been charged with a crime, and neither has Harvey. I just want to reiterate that point right now. We'll keep an eye on it, though. Thank you, Joel Waldman.
Thank you.
So let's get back to October 2023, when Donna Adelson was first arrested. Police moved in on. Sorry, I was muted. So here's my thing, and this is just me thinking out loud, and I could be totally off base, right? Totally off base. But I'm wondering, last fall, Charlie's in Tallahassee, he's in the Leon County Jail for this trial of his mother. He's like, I didn't waive any conflict. It totally throws Donna's case into a tailspin. Does Charlie have some information? Did Charlie offer up some information? I'm wondering. I mean, is Charlie sitting in prison in South Dakota and he's like, what in the heck is going on? Did he do what Katie Magbanwa did, get convicted and think to himself, I have a son. I have a son. What am I doing sitting in a prison in South Dakota? What in the world? Did he ask to talk to prosecutors when he was sitting there in the Leon County Jail for his mom's trial last fall? I don't know. Did he? I could be wrong. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. So Cynthia says, if Charlie has information, he has nothing to gain to spill. He's not getting a reduced sentence. You never know. You never know. I mean, you never know. He might. It depends on how badly they want the others. So, I don't know. So that's what I'm wondering. Because you're telling me Katie Magbanwa all of a sudden flipped after her conviction because she's getting nothing out of this? I don't know. So something's going on. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I think there's something going on. And I just think it's curious that all of a sudden they get some information last fall. I don't think they can go solely on Charlie's word. Like, let's say, and this is me thinking out loud, they got something from Charlie. Well, I don't know if you can trust Charlie. They'd have to have more to corroborate it. So let's say in that hypothetical, Charlie says something like, oh, I'll give you my sister. You know, she's out there living the life and I'm sitting here and I have a son. I'll give you my sister, but they can't just use him. So they have to have more and they have no way out to get the other evidence. Is this about his sister? I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully. Right. That's what I'm saying. He lied, double extortion, the whole shebang. He got up there for how many hours and told all this story about double extortion and, oh, it was the double extortion and rah, 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 rah. I mean, like, come on, dude. The double extortion thing is so ridiculous. Vesper Martini says wiretaps could be on Wendy. Yeah, it could be. So let's look at a little bit of this on her at the Miami International Airport. This body camera footage, Donna was flipping out when she got taken into custody, flipping out hardcore.
Deep in the oldest part of Cairo, there's a mysterious salon known as the Crown Temple, run by a group of Black women.
Watch your head, watch your step.
This is when she was being transported from Miami to Tallahassee. She was a hot mess.
Good? Yes? All right. Wherever you sit. You got 8 seatbelts on this van. Strap into any one of them. All right? I don't care which one you do it. Just make sure you strap into one. Pick any one. If it's that one, it's going to be on the other side. Look to your right. There you go. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, that was just before noon on November 20th, 2023. Sitting in the back of one of those vans, it has to be really uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. Who would be? After 5 p.m., another deputy grabs his body-worn camera and goes to the back of the van. This is more than 5 hours later.
Okay. Cuffs. Tight up. Go. All right. Right here. Cuffs. You tried it. All right. Take your time. Got it. Let me see if this help out a little bit.
Donna Adelson is obviously having some kind of issue. The deputies get something for her to drink.
I got you. Take your time. Take your time. You want some more water? You think you might be able to use the rest? You think that might help?
Go ahead, Kevin. Mention about check out.
All right.
Go have a check out.
All right.
You're going to have your mess come check you out. Okay? Ladies. Yes, ma'am. I want to have it. You want to make sure you're all right. I don't know what's going on right now. Are you familiar? Have you ever felt like this before now? This is just an uncomfortable ride. Okay.
Now, it seems like Donna Adelson is kind of freaked out. She said she was calling and no one answered.
What exactly are you feeling?
Like cancer, like frozen in this position.
Yeah, but I can say they're frozen. Yeah, but they're extremely warm.
I don't mean like this.
Yeah. Okay, not the temperature. All right. Okay. Just want to make sure. We call it in bed. We're going to check out right now what's going on. Right? And if you walk step outside, that'll help. You don't know? Okay. All right. You stick your leg out? Is that possible? Okay. Yeah. You'll have on this one. You might have some anxiety right now.
Eventually, EMTs arrive and they tend to Donna Adelson for a time, and then they get her out of the back of the transport van and get ready to take her to the hospital. She's treated there, and eventually she's released. And then she arrives at the Leon County Jail.
Come on. Take your time coming out the van. Watch your step. Watch your head. Make sure you step on the big one. All right. Good. Just go side. Hold on side. Good.
Donna Adelson has been in the Leon County Jail since November of 2023, and now a new trial date has not yet been set for her. But when they do set that new trial date, we'll let you know when it could be. It might be in the fall. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
So there you have it, guys. That's all I got for you for now. But I feel like got to keep an eye on the next Discovery release and what comes out. I'm going to put the link to that episode of Crime Fix if you want to watch the whole thing in the comments. Remember to give me a thumbs up, please. Like, subscribe if you've been watching on replay. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for watching. I'm going to log off here and get ready for my next live, which will be at 7:15. If you care to join, I'd love it if you do. It's going to be on Jen McCabe's testimony in the Karen Reed trial, the retrial. The Karen Reed retrial. So I'll try to fix my hair up by then. Although now I'm like, it doesn't really look that bad from being out in the rain. But I will, I'm going to get prepared for that. Going to preface it with, guess what? I didn't clip every single piece of footage. So it's not going to be like, everything Jen McCabe said. It's going to be what I've got clipped, and we're going to talk about it. So that will be going on at 7:15. And so I hope people can join. I hope you will join. And again, please like and subscribe. And if you're watching on replay, again, thanks for watching. And if you've been watching live, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys back here at 7:15. Be there or be square, as they say. And thanks again. Take care.